Hey everybody, it's Mike Johnson, Pwinsidertv here, and no matter where I go, I run into somebody. I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina on an off day, and I see the Man Scout, Jake Manning. How are you, sir?
Good. On my off day as well.
On your off day as well.
Surprisingly. One weekend where I don't travel somewhere.
Exactly. So, of course, we say, let's do Pwinsidertv.
Of course, why not?
Let's talk first about the Dynamite Kid documentary. Obviously, it finally came out via the kindness of everybody at Kickstarter.com and through the fine work of yourself as director. The original footage that you shot with Dynamite, you guys released it via highspots.tv.
Yes.
It's obvious from watching it he was not a very articulate person. So you're shooting it, you go all the way to Manchester, you're walking out. Is that where the documentary idea came from? Like, we have to somehow salvage this investment?
Not necessarily so. I mean, the documentary idea kind of came along before all that, believe it or not. And, like, we had the idea for doing that a little bit, but we felt like, no. We read the, Pure Dynamite, we read the book, this is going to be good. But also, in the course of filming the interview, you couldn't see what's going on the other side of the camera. I don't know how many of you know this, but the plugs in the UK are a little bit different than the ones in America, and I have all this video equipment that needs to be run through electricity. So that was a concern. I actually blew up our audio board at one point in time. That's why the audio may be a little bit rough on some of the parts with Tom Billington and stuff like that. But also, too, is the lights that we bought over there, they blew really well, real quickly, because also where he's living, the electrical circuits couldn't handle that much electricity at one point in time. So yeah, not only the interview, but also the technical aspect of it, in the sense of like how it looked and how the audio and everything else. There were a lot of things that happened that were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, as an interview that this happened and stuff like that. But yes, when we got done with the interview, we kind of felt like, well, I don't want to make it sound like this, like the interview was so bad, but it was rather rough. But the whole experience of me traveling and meeting the Dynamite Kid, like, that was a big deal to me. And, why that's a big deal to me seemed like a better story than just a regular shoot interview. And I guess that's kind of the way me and Michael kind of felt, is a sense that, this guy's an enigma. This is a person. And the interview with him didn't cover it. And it had to be a documentary, and that's why we did the documentary.
Why do you think he remains that enigma? Is it because his body's broken and he's proud and he doesn't want people to see him as he is now?
No.
Is it just the type of person that he was before that? Like, why do you think he hasn't kind of embraced the celebrity or the nostalgia that is the Dynamite Kid for a lot of fans?
Well, I don't think he really even realized it when he was a celebrity. I mean, but pride. That's the thing with him, is his pride, and that's why he was called a matter of pride. Everything's always been about pride with him. He took a lot of pride in what he did. He took a lot of pride in what people thought of his work, and there's a real beautiful part in the narration that's in the trailer that starts the whole DVD off. It says that he's completely unaware of the effect that his wrestling has, the effect that his wrestling had on the wrestling world. And I just, that's true. He thinks he's had a pretty decent career. Like, he thought he did some good things and everything was real cool, but he never, he doesn't understand the effect that he had. And I don't even know if the DVD really even covered it. I mean, it seemed like such a small touch, because we're trying to tell the story of his life and things that happened and everything else. But he really did create this whole style and this whole sense of smaller guys just fucking kicking ass and just going out there and doing the best you can and just trying to put on a 5-star match, a match that's going to live forever. Because, I mean, let's face it, those matches with Tiger Mask, they will never be... I can't foresee a time in wrestling where those matches will be out of date. I'm sure there's some matches that we see from the 60s and some Madison Square Garden matches that are like, oh, this really wouldn't translate.
Yeah, you can say that about some of the ECW stuff now.
Yeah, exactly. Even that as well. I mean, even some stuff from the 90s. But what Dynamite Kid was doing in '82, I think the general wrestling public hadn't seen anything like that until like Benoit and Guerrero were working on top in the early 2000s, and then I think we kind of got away from that in wrestling, and now I think it's coming back again. So the wrestling that people are seeing now, Dynamite Kid was doing it in 1982. And that's what you got to do, is you got to put that time stamp on it. I mean, now people go back and look at that match and go, oh, that looks like a good match. But you have to put in context. Like, you think about the Tiger Mask match in Madison Square Garden. What was the next match on the card? I always joke, and it was probably like Pedro Morales versus Rene Goulet or something like that. Like, so you can only imagine how out of place that was. So he doesn't really realize how much of an impact he had and how far ahead of his time he was. He just thinks he had a good career and that's it. And, you know, well, I'm in a wheelchair, no big deal. And that's a story that needed to be told. And that's what me and Michael Bakikio saw. And that's what I felt like is a better story than what was told in the interview.
Did you get? I know he went to the screening in Manchester when you guys kind of premiered the film. Did you get any feedback from him on what he thought?
That was the biggest concern I had with this whole project. I remember telling people that he's probably going to hate it. I'm going to do all this work. He's going to see it, and there's going to be something in there, and he's not going to like it, and he's just going to be like, oh, well, fuck it, you know, or whatever. He's just going to say, screw it, whatever.
Oh, bollocks.
Yeah, bollocks, whatever. You know, whatever he's going to say. But I got an email from our guy who did the Dynamite Kid experience over there, and they saw the DVD, and I guess it made his wife Dot cry, and it put a lump in his throat was the line that I got, and I think I put it out on my Twitter and my Facebook and stuff like that. So to me, the fact that it affected him so much means a lot to me, and it really kind of brought the whole project back around for me. You know?
I know when you guys were doing the film, Jacques Rougeau ducked out on the interview.
Yes, he did.
Did you ever hear why? Was there ever any explanation later on?
No follow-up after. You know, I mean, even several attempts after, like, hey, you know, why'd you duck out on us? Nothing.
Just didn't care.
He was saying that he's in a different place in life, and it's, you know.
I guess it's hard for these guys. That's probably like one of like the worst things that he probably went through in life. And even just, you know, even though I guess in the eyes of some he redeemed himself, it still was a dark place for all involved.
Yeah.
So why want to go back? Why would they want to go back there?
Well, that's the thing too, is that, you know, like, I think Honky Tonk Man in the interview that we did with him when he talked about it, it's like, you know, what if, I mean, you hear these instances of bar fights and somebody get hit in the back of the head a certain way, and a guy falling down and hits his head and he dies. I mean, it could have been murder in the WWF like hallway. I mean, it could have been murder. That's how this whole thing had escalated a certain way, and then the whole involvement of the mafia supposedly, and all this other stuff. It could have been a murderous act. I mean, this could have been something really dangerous over what actually was a simple misunderstanding. And from what I've heard from sources is Jacques didn't find out till later that it was actually Kurt Hennig who was ribbing him, not Dynamite. And when Jacques found out about it, he was actually quite upset that he had got his payback on Dynamite when really
he shouldn't. He really didn't need to.
He really didn't need to. So
in a way, Dynamite was right because Hennig had riled him up.
Exactly, and that's the thing too, is you get these guys that stir everybody up, and wrestling locker rooms can be like high school sometimes, and I guess that's some of the dangers of that. I mean, that's a whole different topic for a whole different whatever, but you know, that's definitely probably what happened.
So, you know, no one's ever completely 100% happy with any project. No one creative. Where do you stand on the film? And are you happy with the final product?
The biggest concern of the whole thing was to get it out at this date. I wish we could have had another month, that I could have stepped back, got a little bit of clarity, and maybe go on a certain way, maybe get some more interviews, maybe take this in this direction. There's a couple instances like that. A couple of technical things that came about just because of scheduling or just accidents. You know, sometimes like, you know, I know Bret Hart's audio was a little off. I actually wasn't there when it was recorded, and I'm the head.
So it wasn't your fault.
Yeah, pretty much. But at the same time, too, as a video guy, like, mistakes like that happen all the time. Like, so an audio doesn't happen. But with Bret Hart, an interview that significant, you're going to get it at one shot only. So you got to use what you got. It's not like, hey, can you come in? And we're not Vince. Like, hey, fly down to Stanford. We're going to record that again because of whatever reasons. I mean, You get one shot, you get one opportunity. Especially when we flew over to Calgary, and you're only going to get one opportunity with the daughter. Like anybody who's seen the documentary and you saw the part about his daughter, you get one opportunity to get something that special, that unique.
I really thought those scenes kind of made the film, even more so than Dynamite's comments.
I think it took what we had and made it something a little bit more, because just what she said, like the line where he said, "I'm sorry," and I just knew what it meant. Like, that's a powerful statement. Like, that's more than just a regular wrestling documentary about about world class or about whatever wrestling or ECW or whatever. That's a powerful statement about life, and I think that's what we had, in the Dynamite Matter of Pride. So.
Well, you guys are working. We're in Charlotte right now. You guys are working on a new documentary on the life and death and legacy of Jim Crockett Promotions.
Yes.
So, talk a little bit about that. How the Kickstarter for that came about, and do you think this is kind of the future for projects? I mean, you look at the Veronica Mars story.
Yes.
They raised $2 million, and now they're well above that to produce a feature film that's going to be released and distributed by a major studio. So we've talked about this before, but how much of a game changer is Kickstarter even for guys like you guys for going forward?
Tremendously. I mean, I know at first there's been a lot of negative feedback and like, well, you're a successful company, why don't you just go ahead and do it? Well, it's different. The world of pre-orders and people paying in advance, that's all changed, and bootlegs and everything else. The whole game has changed. But here's the thing about Kickstarter. We view it as it's basically pre-ordering a DVD. But also, too, in a sense that, for it to be as good as we want it to be, like as a video editor, I could start on a project tomorrow that I have a lot of passion towards. Like, I want to do this documentary, and this is what I want to do. Now, I could go out and do this and come to find out that the audience that wants to see that's only 30 people. Where now with Kickstarter, it's like, hey, I've got this idea. What do you guys think? And all of a sudden, 1,000 people see it.
So it's a good way to gauge your audience as well.
Exactly, and that's the thing too. And I think that was the thing that was big on the Dynamite things. Like, you guys wanted to see this as a documentary. Apparently, there was enough people that wanted to see it as a documentary. But if there wasn't, we literally would have released it as a shoot interview, as you see on Pwinsidertv. That's what we would have done. And that's kind of the thing with the Jim Crockett thing, but a little more in the sense of the Michael Elliott, who's been very hands-on on the whole filming of this thing. He's driving to these people's houses, because some of these people can't drive. They're getting up in years, like Ole Anderson.
I was going to say, give us an idea of some of the names that have been interviewed so far.
He drove down to Ole Anderson's house to film. He drove to Jim Cornette's house. He's got gas, and some of these guys expect money because of the era of shoot interviews and people being paid, and that sense of it too. Because we are going to sell the project. It's not a documentary in the sense of like, oh, can you do it for free and then we make a ton of money? No, these people have to be compensated.
It's not a PBS project.
Exactly. It's not a PBS project. This is a documentary that will be sold and stuff like that. So in the sense of Kickstarter, also too, the very big brilliance of Kickstarter is a lot of add-ons. Like, we have a wonderful painting by Rob Schambarger, which I probably messed up his name, and I feel bad because my last name is Feuerbach, so I know how it is and know how it feels.
I thought it was Manning.
Okay, fave. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of add-ons to everything, and I think we're going to run a little Legends show. I think we're going to run like a Legends convention, a big premiere.
Really?
I think that's part of the whole deal. I think that's one of the options. Is we're doing this big, we're doing like a wrestling show, like a Legend show with some of these guys and stuff like that. So there's all these add-ons. It's more than just pre-ordering a DVD. There's a lot of things that are interactive and almost like a fan base, like giving back to a fan base. Like if you were a fan of Jim Crockett Promotions, get behind this project, and here's all these wonderful add-ons to it. But if you just want the DVD, just go ahead and pre-order it.
So, obviously you live in the Carolinas now. What does Jim Crockett Promotions mean to you?
It's tough to say what it means to me, but I'll tell you one thing that it means to this community. My trainer, George South, said it best. Before this city was about the Bobcats. Before this city was about the Panthers. Before this city was probably even before
NASCAR. Probably.
This city was about professional wrestling. And there's little hidden landmarks to this city. that you don't really see. Like, this is the bank that all the guys did all the banking at because it was close to the Jim Crockett office. This is the restaurant where they would go eat after they cashed their check. That we're actually right now just a stone's throw away from the Park and Rec Center, where they used to run all the wrestling
TV
shows.
tapings.
Yes, and also next over is the Coliseum. I mean, we're a stone throw away right now, and then
We're right by the park, the gas station where the Horsemen beat up Dusty.
Yes, exactly. Well, Briar Bend Road is where that happened. Was at Jim Crockett's office and stuff like that. I mean, that's just down from here. I mean, there's a lot of hidden landmarks to this city. That's Price's Chicken Coop. George South would take an order from the Four Horsemen and come back with 4 boxes, and they'd tip him like $50 for giving him a box of chicken for TV or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of little hidden landmarks.
I do highly suggest visiting Price's Chicken Coop.
Yes.
That place is amazing.
It is. And that's the thing. There's a little hidden landmarks to this city that there's not a lot of cities like that.
Yeah, it's in the fabric of the culture.
Exactly, and then that's the best way to put it. And we got a little bit of that in Calgary when we walked around and stuff like that, but there's not a lot of cities like that anymore.
So what is your hope for the documentary by the time it's released?
As somebody that's, like, the person that's doing it grew up as a fan of Jim Crockett Promotions, so like Michael Elliott, a fantastic video editor, camera guy, and stuff like that. He's doing a wonderful job right now. I've seen a few clips and stuff like that. I think the hope is that he feels happy about it, and all the people that were touched by Jim Crockett Promotions, because it really is true. These people were touched by what they did. This was a part of their culture, their fabric. If I wear a Ric Flair shirt, I can't walk into a gas station without somebody pointing and giving me a story about how they saw him one time. They're like, I saw him in a restaurant one time. I waved at him and he waved back at me. There are people that were touched by Jim Crockett Promotions. I mean, there's not a lot of people, not a lot of promotions that did that. And of course, World Class had the success it did, but you think about how big Jim Crockett Promotions got. I mean, they were running Dallas, California, Chicago, and all this.
And they were the last survivor against Vince too.
Exactly, for quite some time. So I mean,
in some markets they were beating Vince.
Exactly, and that's the thing too, is that.
That's the thing too. Like, people forget, like, WWF and Crockett would run Philly the same night, and both sell out their respective buildings.
Yeah,
Like,
and you think about the fabric of, like, this place. Like, nobody cared about it, but wrestling, it mattered. And you think about Greensboro and everything it did. It was a very personal thing to these people. I mean, it was like an old girlfriend or a best friend or whatever it was to these people emotionally.
It was their home team. It was their home team before there was a home team.
Absolutely. I mean, it was their Brooklyn Dodgers,
the New York Yankees.
Yeah, Yankees or whatever. I was trying to think of some analogies, teams that like people cared about and then moved away and were gone.
Well, that would be the Dodgers.
Exactly. So that's kind of what that was, for these people, and they're just kind of wandering around. And a lot of them haven't gone back to it. I mean, Greg Price does his Fan Fest conventions and he gets some people, but there are those people that just are kind of unaware and just kind of wandering around.
Yeah, they've dispersed into the next chapter of their lives.
Exactly.
Well, let's hope the next chapter of yours is yet another successful Kickstarter campaign and another fun documentary. We thank you for your time, and everyone can check out lots more information on the Dynamite Kid documentary and also the Jim Crockett Promotions Kickstarter at Kickstarter.com and also highspots.com. Well, Jake, I want to thank you for your time, and sorry to bother you on your day off.
Oh, no problem.
All right, everybody, until next time on PW Insider TV, this is Mike Johnson.